Hi guys, on a recent gold prospecting trip in the wintertime, I got a chance to fly my Mavic Air. Even though I'd flown in this area 3 times before, it wouldn't let me get off the ground until I did a compass calibration, which sort of surprised me. And even then, as I was just taking a standard video shot of our truck pulling away afterwards, it started wandering back and forth and just about hitting the trees. I had to do a 360-degree yaw turn, which tends to correct a compass error. It was a bit of a surprise. The bright sunlight and dark shadows made exposure pretty tricky for the little camera sensor, so that's a good thing to do manually, and then you can always adjust it later. So we got down into the pretty chilly, narrow valley. It's a lovely spot. It's full of trees and branches and slippery snow-covered rocks. I thought I'd be using tripod mode a lot to try to fly in between these branches. Bit of a challenge. At the end of the river is a beautiful waterfall. That's where we're going to be looking for gold, as the small flakes are carried over with the water, and we'll be looking behind rocks. We're in a very narrow canyon here with difficulty to see the satellites for GPS. So the Mavic is getting between 0 and 11 satellites at the bottom and bouncing around quite a bit. The higher I can get the Mavic in the air initially, the more satellites it sees. Eventually I got it up so it could fly to the top. And I had looking at the pool where the waterfall comes from, and it was only later that I noticed in the video these little branches. I couldn't see those on my cell phone display. So find out what your optical avoidance sensors will see. Practice that in the backyard, and make sure you know before you start flying in areas where you don't know what it might see or not see. Unfortunately, the waterfall pool is quite shadowy and dark and blue. The lighting is not optimal, but anyway, it's the best you can do. I'm at the bottom there trying to just keep everything running and looking at my little tiny cell phone display to see what the camera's pointing at. But then the sun finally came out. With that sun shining on the top of the falls, I thought, man, I gotta get a picture of that before it goes back behind a cloud again. No time to climb over all the rocks, so I thought maybe I could weave through these branches. They created quite a disturbance for the optical sensors, which I of course left on. And between the GPS coming and going into Opti mode, and the optical sensors holding me back and forth, it was very difficult steering in there. Eventually the GPS kicked in with enough satellites that I could rise up through a hole in the branches and I get a picture of the falls. It was pretty darn scary. But that extreme lighting of the sun shining on the top and the pool at the bottom still made it a difficult challenge to get. So we did a bit more panning, and then the sun came out again. This time it's illuminating almost all the falls, so I thought, well, I have to get in there and try to get that shot. But the lack of the GPS limited my height. I couldn't fly very high. And then the optical avoidance sensors got freaked out by both the moving water in the front and the moving water underneath, and wouldn't let me move almost at all. So it was a very frustrating exercise. Well, eventually the GPS did go up, and I had a chance to try the 120 frames per second 1080p. I wish I'd had a neutral density filter for all my shooting, because it would have helped make the video a little less choppy looking and jumpy. And also, the slow motion effect needs a good card to write to. Same with the rest of this video. Even though I'm using a U1 high-speed card, I think next time I need a U3, which is the highest write speed card for 100 megabytes a second. It shows up in the compression, the artifacts, the jumpiness, just overall poor quality in there. Yeah, I found some gold. Not enough to quit my day job, but more importantly, I learned quite a few things. One is, get that compass calibration figured out. Take over your exposure controls, know the limits of optical avoidance, get an ND filter, and use the highest speed SD card you can find. Thanks for watching.